Welcome back to Business Morning. Let's recap what's some of the big stories for you. IMF First Deputy Managing Director David Lipton has warned world's largest countries that are dangerously unprepared for the consequences of a serious economic slowdown. Lipton told Financial Times in Atlanta, USA over the weekend that the government will find it hard to use fiscal or monetary measures to offset the next economic recession. Lipton says the next recession is somewhere over the horizon and we're less prepared to deal with that than we should be and less prepared than in the last crisis in 2008. David Lipton says countries should now be paying attention to keeping their economy on a level trajectory, building buffers and not fighting with each other. Meantime, a faction of Niger Delta militants hit Cornell PLC's upstream operations at the weekend, sabotaging an oil pipeline located in Bayelsa State. The militants reportedly says they want issues of scholarships, job creation, and other amenities resolved within the community space where Cornell is doing and other companies are doing business. A Nigerian government reached a major amnesty deal with Niger Delta militants 10 years ago, with promises by the Nigerian government to clean up the oil-rich Niger Delta, which hasn't really happened, ensure a robust socio-economic development of the region as well, among other things. Meantime, the government has been funding amnesty paycheck of repentant militants running into billions of naira over the last 10 years. And that's been funded through the annual budget operations. Meantime, the Abuja's new international airport terminal, which was commissioned by President Buhari just about 2 weeks ago, is now being used. According to the Federal Airport Authority, that's FAN, Askar Airlines brought in about 91 persons via a flight from Lomé, Togo over the weekend, with an outbound flight to N'Djamena in Niger Republic. And that's now putting the new international airport terminal, the Nigeria's political capital, into use. That's what's making the headlines this morning. Of course, in the news you hear later on the military coup in Gabon. Gabon is here in West Africa and one of the oil-producing countries on the African continent, according to RENCAP. Charlie Robertson, who is the chief economist to Renaissance Capital, says that Gabon produces about 200,000 barrels of oil per day, but per person, that's about 10 times more than Nigeria. Actually, Gabon is the third biggest oil exporter per capita on the African continent. We have a lot more to talk about these stories, of course, as you watch Channels, Nigeria's news leader, through today and all through today. But let's get back to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, where our business correspondent, Temple Ashaju, is standing by for some of this conversation with us. Temple, the oil facility, which the militants, a faction of the Niger Delta militants, sabotaged over the weekend, belong to the upstream side of Corn Oil PLC, not the downstream part that's listed on the exchange. But of course, when folks or investors hear that a pipeline belonging to an oil company is sabotaged, everybody seemed to panic.
Exactly. You're right, Bosun. I mean, that's the what investors here in the local space here are used to. Once the name resonates here with what is tradable on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, investors will sometimes want to react to it, even though we know that we have the upstream, we have the downstream, as you explained, because again, there's so much uncertainty in the system. The general election, as we all know, is just around the corner. We also know that the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries has asked Nigeria to also reduce its output. This is also concerning a company that operates in the upstream. So you want to square things up by bringing all of this into your investment decision, saying, look, if it is corn oil, you have a subsidiary kind of tradable on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. One way or the other, they will connect and it will impact on my investment. So I need to quickly take a decision at this point in time. That's basically that's the mindset of a few retail investors, if you ask me. But for the institutional investors, it may not be like that.
Yes. Okay. Temple, what else is... we're not sure how the market will look at this today. But again, if you look at the market last week, the oil and gas stocks seem to, didn't see but just sidestep the very brutal finishing we had, with the banking sector down about 2.7%, Industrial goods was the most, almost 4%, while oil and gas did about 3%. Is it still something around 40 oil?
Yeah, it's not far from that. 40 oil in recent time, given the news that we heard about the billionaire Mr. Femi Otedola, who's the chairman of that company. We all know the story that he is divesting from that particular company, and for over 3-4 months now, thereabout, if not more actually, we've been seeing a sell down on that particular company, and that counter investors at the point in time we're seeing over 8 million units of shares done on that company almost weekly, and at a point in time it reduced. But given that news that broke sometimes in December, we then saw it rising, perhaps to give room for some Yuletide rally and all that, and that happened. And immediately after the festive period, we saw that it started declining. I think that sentiment is likely to also persist on the company this period. That if the major shareholder that has been selling down that company is not done with his investments. But again, we know that a lot of investors here, traders here, have put in money at a point in time when it was hovering around 22 naira to 20 naira per share, and they expected to take profits, at that point. But that didn't happen until it then went lower to 17 naira per share. Then we saw it rising during the Christmas, the festivity period, so as high as 34 naira. At the point it touched 34 naira and investors came back from the holiday, it was an opportunity for them quickly reduce their holding on that company, sell down and take profit and then exit. Bosun.
Yes, on your show on Saturday, you spoke to one of the market analysts about the state of the market, and what's the outlook on the market as it were. I'm sure we have quite a number of companies in the news for different reasons. Again, with the corporate governance issues of the stock exchange with Diamond Bank and all that, do you think all this will be part of the suitcase or the portfolio we're taking into this brand new trading week?
Like my guest on Saturday said, that's Gbalahan of Quadras Capital, quite a number of things will shape the market, especially in the first half of the year. That's from January now to June, because we will see election in Q1, and of course you will see a lot of investors selling down and just watching. At this point in time, we will hardly see foreign investors coming in. Quite a number of companies like Unity Bank has been anticipating the injection of some funds from some foreign companies. There was a point in time when Milos indicated interest in the company. Suddenly, we didn't hear anything further. Resort Savings and Loan, which also last week released its outstanding audited financial statements to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, was also expecting some funds from the Milos, this international private equity firm, but that didn't happen. However, we know that Unity Bank, which is even one of the best performing stocks for the year, I think one of the top 4 or top 3 performing stocks for the year 2018, has done its annual general meeting following the submission of its outstanding audited statements for the year and of course quarterly to the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So that led to the organization of the staging of the annual general meeting somewhere in Akwa Ibom on the 17th of December. We haven't really heard anything from the company since the conclusion of that meeting. Resort Savings and Loan too hasn't really said anything, but we're anticipating some kind of statement from these 2 key companies. There are 2 key companies to watch at this point in time. If anything happens regarding injection of funds, which is not likely to actually be at all, then you will see positive reaction on these companies. We also know of Diamond Bank and Access Bank acquisition. These are companies that investors are watching. Diamond Bank, I think, is experiencing a bit of price correction at this point in time, because it hit it hit some 2 naira 13 kobo during the trading week last week and before, and we know that so according to some analysts, it has hit it was in the overbought region, and it needed to quickly experience this the kind of rebalancing in the share price or price correction. Of course, there's a whole lot more. CNN, which was the best performing stock for the year, is another one to watch, having acquired or merged with Kalambena Plans, which is supposed to belong to Boa Group in Sokoto, the northern part of the country, Bosun. So there's a whole lot, even in the macroeconomic space. The fact that you have globally, you will be having central banks, shoring up interest rates. Locally here, investors are expected to react to that. The whole
I'm just about to quickly check in there with talking about the cement company of Northern Nigeria in Sokoto State, Northwest. But again, if you look at this, is one company in the news for some very good reasons with that business combination with the Boa Group. But again, you look at Lafarge Africa, what you call WAPCO, cement. Of course, that's his most known name in the Nigerian space, still doing another round of rights issue. It looks like this company is almost every year is doing one rights issue or the other, keep raising money. And is there anything that we know, particularly about Lafarge Africa? It looks like it keeps running far behind its main rival, Dangote Cement. Now it may have to start competing with another rival, which is CCNN.
Absolutely. True, Bosun. We know that ARM released a kind of analysis sometimes in Q3 2018, talking about the consumption of cement and, of course, the demand in the market, which impacted on these key companies in that sector. Of course, a lot of them tradable here in the exchange last year. So it is expected that going forward in 2019, rather, the demand will increase. For both WAPCO, Dangote Cement, CCNN, and all the companies that are not even listed here in the market. And that now should be able to help improve the performance of these companies. We know that WAPCO had some obligations to meet in 2018, which impacted on their earnings negatively for the quarterly. I think it was Q3 2018 now. But investors were really, really bullish on the performance for 2019. They're looking at a new dawn for the company in 2019, and that's why I think the rights issue came to play. And that way, the investors are the ones that will be offered this position, and they are the ones that will be taking it. And it looks like at the end of the day, there should be something good, because this is one company that in the previous year, the year before the last, was also kind of positive and declared some kind of good earnings to its investors.
Okay, Temple, thank you so much. Let's just see you on the floor in about 30 minutes from now. Temple Ashaju, our business correspondent, giving us some flesh to some of the stories to expect this week. Of course, if the big story across the continent was what you call the military, some soldiers in Gabon, one of the West African oil-producing countries just next to Equatorial Guinea, is taking over the country's affairs, taking over a radio station and saying they are not happy with the president of the country. But again, this quickly goes into the market. Of course, you know how that things work. It goes to the economy, it goes to the market. So the chief economist at Renaissance Capital, Charles Robertson, if you're following him on Twitter, at Rencapman, that's his Twitter handle, is trying to put out what is the connection between the political stability of every country that is a net exporter of oil, and he's trying to have a very beautiful chart that you can see. If you go there, you can find why is it there's a problem. A little bit, according to this chart, Charles says that when countries are large net exporters of energy, then they tend to be autocracies as defined by Polity 4 of 2006, or what you call the Freedom House calls not free country. And if you look at Africa, for example, in terms of oil, Gabon produces just about 200,000 barrels of oil per day. But if you put that per person, that's a lot much better, according to Rencapman, better than Nigeria, which is the largest oil producer on the continent. So 10 times more. And more exports than Nigeria, even though we produce about 2.2 million barrels per day. If you want to put what they call the politics and oil and the economies together, follow Charles Robertson on Twitter, and you find or it's a very beautiful chat and the stories. After the break, 2 minutes.